I generally hate doing intros. This is like the fourth episode, technically, that I've recorded, and I never know how to start this crap because it feels so unnatural and uncomfortable. But I suppose it's a must. So, welcome back, everybody, to the third official episode of the TriPod podcast, aka the Pod, aka the Pod to the Power of 3. I am your host, Stanimation, aka Stan, aka Stan to the Power of 3, or Stan, or just, whatever the hell you want to call me, like an idiot or a moron, which I am. Hence me just speaking to myself, I suppose. This is technically the fourth episode that I'm recording. I have recorded an episode 0, which was supposed to be like my pilot episode, where I reviewed Jason Statham's The Beekeeper. Then I did an episode 1, The Fall Guy, because I was like, that's a nice movie to start on. I was going to do Monkey Man. And then I just ended up never recording that one. Then I recorded the Fall Guy one, and then I didn't post that, and then I recorded an episode for Boy Kills World after Comic-Con, and I thought that would be a great one to start on. I've edited all 3 of those episodes, haven't posted one of them. So here we are, the 4th episode, titled Episode 3, and I am welcoming people back that haven't even listened to anything yet because they don't exist yet. But I'll be posting all 4. Why not? Who the fuck cares? This is stupid anyways. It's stupid. I'm trying to be more prepared and more relaxed about it. And I thought I should do it more brief. Because one thing I have realized is that I have done 4 episodes and they usually extend to like past an hour and a half that I need to edit down. And I just thought I'd keep today's one brief and kind of see how it goes, a little bit less formulaic. So let's see how it goes. Anyway, I'm recording this on the 9th of June, 2024. And I just thought I'd start us off with a little bit of news, a little bit general topics that I just wanted to touch on about things that I saw during the week of upcoming films. And, the idea behind this podcast is to review films and, talk general pop culture and the film scene. So, the first thing that I have to touch on is the Venom trailer that was released this week. And I'm curious what people's opinions are of these. I have looked around a little bit, obviously in the comment sections, but they tend to flood the algorithm with that which you want to see. But I'm sincerely curious what people's opinions are of these or of the trailer. Because I did watch it and I don't mind the Venom movies. The first Venom movie I thought was decent, for what it was. It's weird having Venom with no Spider-Man. It is strange, but the second one was even weirder. It was a very strange. I didn't like the second one because it's just basically repeats of Venom just fighting different symbiotes. So it's Venom v Venom, essentially, just in different colors. It feels very racially charged, but anyway, so Venom 3, titled The Last Dance. I don't know if the intention was to have that be a title reflecting Michael Jordan's documentary, which is strange. What an odd choice for a name. Like, Let There Be Carnage made sense, but The Last Dance, maybe it's a reference to a comic book story. I don't know. If anyone knows, that'd be great. I could have probably looked that up, but I, as per usual, am recording this while sitting on an office chair in my living room with my microphone in my laundry basket to cancel out some of the noise, I suppose. I don't know. Either way, it's not going to sound professional. It's going to sound cheap and have varying audio quality, like I prefer. But the trailer, it was so confusing. I don't know what to make of the trailer, because if I'm being honest with you, it doesn't excite me. I know everyone is banging on about the Venom horse. It was pretty dope. The Venom horse is cool. That was a cool part of the clip. And the weird chemistry between Tom Hardy and himself, which is just the voice of Venom, is still fun. It doesn't feel too played out at this point, although I think it would have been cool if they redesigned Venom a little bit throughout the movies, because it seems like the design just is basically the same. It would have been a little bit interesting to see the design evolve a little bit, kind of like how Spider-Man's suit upgrades throughout the movies. I know it wouldn't make sense, but you could be like Venom's growing stronger or whatever, and so the design changes. But what I wanted to briefly touch on is the confusing shit going on at Sony. Honestly, does not know what the flying fuck they're doing. I don't know who runs things at Sony. I haven't even bothered to check. I know there is some person that's in charge of all this in their cinematic universe, but Baron Mordo, I mean, Chiwetel Ejiofor, right? That's his name. The guy that plays Baron Mordo in the MCU is in this movie. And also Ray Fiennes. It is Ray Fiennes that played Doc Connor. Is it O'Connor? Doc Connor? Doc Connors, right? The lizard. In The Amazing Spider-Man. I don't... Like, they're both in there. Is that supposed to be a reference to something? And in the trailer, they retconned the scene where that bit of symbiote stayed behind, or at least it was implied that it stayed behind in Spider-Man's universe, in the MCU, where Tom Holland's, Spider-Man is. Because at the end of No Way Home, that's what we see, right? Is he's in that little holiday place, and then he gets transported back to his universe, and he leaves behind a little bit of his symbiote. And then in this film, Baron Mordo, whatever his new character is like a military guy, just retcons it. He just captures that bit of symbiote. So it wasn't in the other universe. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to anything that they do. And I know Sony is fighting with anything in their power, or with everything in their power, to not let go of the Spider-Man character or property. And I understand there's money for it, in it for them. But come on, man. Like, there's got to be a better way to work with Marvel to incorporate all these characters and create an interesting story. But I have no idea what the hell they're doing. It's stupid. I'm going to watch it anyway, so I'm part of the reason they're probably continuing this, because I'm supporting it. But that made no sense to me. Like, why would you just... And nothing interesting stood out. There was no scene in the trailer apart from the Venom horse that made me go like, oh, I can't wait to see what they explore there. I know one of the actors, I can't remember what his name is supposedly playing Toxin in the movie, which is just another version of a Spider-Man / Venom archetype, which is not very interesting. So I don't know, like, this is the last dance. They're not going to do anything else with the character. It's just such a waste of the perfect fan casting, which is Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock, and it just fell through. I mean, there's no surprise there, because I remember Sony being so confident that they would not let go of the Spider-Man character, where they said that if the character ended up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that would have to mean that every idea had been run dry, and they were in a bad spot at Sony. Only for that to happen, I think, or be announced like a year or two later after The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because this was something that it was asked during The Amazing Spider-Man 2's like press run or whatever, which is, yeah, whatever, man. Sony, you keep being you beautiful bastards. We're still waiting for that Sinister Six movie. It's just crazy. Maybe the best thing we get out of it is a Spider-Man 4 in the Sam Raimi universe with Tobey Maguire, which I wouldn't mind. Something weird that Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland have in common, by the way, is that they both kind of look like frogs that turned into people. Just a weird side tangent that I always think of when I think about the two. But anyway, moving on from there. Wait, there was actually something that I wanted to add there. Oh, the fact that Venom in No Way Home had this weird fascination with Spider-Man, and it doesn't seem like we're getting a payoff for that. Unless they did a really good job to hide any sort of Spider-Man connection in this movie that maybe we will get. But if I'm being honest with you, I hope not. It's just, I kind of just want this to die, and then I want them to reuse Eddie Brock in the MCU Spider-Man universe. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? But anyway, moving on. Another trailer that I saw this week that I wanted to just briefly touch on, which is confusing to me. I don't know if I can say that it's interesting to me. It's just confusing, and I had to talk about it. I don't know if anyone saw, but there is a trailer released for a Pharrell Williams biopic or autobiography, I don't know which is which, where it's a story about Pharrell's life, but told through Lego, which I never knew this existed. I never knew this was going to exist. But what? Like, why does that exist? I mean, it's kind of cool. It's a cool concept. But what? Why? How strange is that? How I know to Pharrell, like, I'm assuming to Pharrell Williams, this is like a cash grab, not a cash grab, but I mean, he's a Happy. Just think of the song Happy, how much money that must have made him off of Despicable Me. So combining his music, which kids would kind of vibe to, you know, like a song like Happy, and he's apparently got original music for this movie, it makes a lot of sense, and I can't fault him for that. This dude's gonna be rich as hell. So good for him. It's just funny because like Kendrick Lamar and Snoop Dogg and Jay-Z, there's a few rappers that make appearances in this film, and it's just so strange. It's so strange, but I'm kind of here for it, you know? It's kind of like, it's cool. It's an original concept. I like it. I kind of fuck with it. I'm not gonna lie. It's super stupid, but I'm here for it. I think as someone who is super stupid, that's probably why I would, you know, kind of rock with it. It's just funny after the whole Kendrick and Drake beef, the first sort of media release I see from Kendrick is him starring in a Lego movie about Pharrell Williams' life, which is so strange. Anyway, then the other thing that I wanted to touch on is, like I said, one of the movies that I reviewed was The Fall Guy, which obviously revolves a lot around celebrating stunt performers and stunt people and the work that they've done over the years, because it's kind of like they're seen as some of the unsung heroes, apart from writers that obviously don't get paid nearly as much as they should, but they are seen as like the unsung heroes of the film industry. And apparently the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science, I don't know, the Academy is considering apparently to bring in a category to the Oscars to celebrate stunt work and stunt performers, which, man, how have you had the awards for so long and only now they're seriously considering it? It's such a strange thing for me, because I'm pretty sure at the Oscars a while back they did like a fan or a viewer's choice award where Zack Snyder, I think, won an award for Justice League or something stupid. I can't remember. But they did that before they did this. I could be wrong, but I don't care enough to actually go double check on this. I just thought it's cool that stunt performers might actually be highlighted in the Oscars, because that also increases their profitability. So, you know, have the people that actually put their bodies and lives on the line earn a little bit more money. So I do understand that actors earn more, because if you draw, you earn more. That makes sense to me. I'm not fighting or arguing that point. I just think it's cool that another category within film will be getting the attention that, you know, I think a lot of us think they deserve. So that's pretty cool. Then just a brief MCU update that I wanted to touch on. I read this week, I think it was an article by Empire Magazine. I read online that Marvel is apparently eyeing Sean Levy, director of Deadpool and Wolverine, to direct the Avengers 5, which is no longer going to be a Kang Dynasty movie, apparently. I know the original director, which was the Shang-Chi director of Shang-Chi 2, who was going to take the helm of director for that movie, stepped down to focus on Shang-Chi 2, I believe. But anyway, they are reportedly eyeing Sean Levy to direct. So, I mean, you've got to impress Kevin Feige and the Marvel team quite a lot with your Deadpool movie, I think, to potentially be eyed to play or considered to play director or be director for the upcoming Avengers movie, especially off the back of the Russo brothers. But I think something regarding Sean Levy why they might be considering him is because in the Deadpool and Wolverine film, there's obviously going to be a lot of characters that are going to cameo or at least make an appearance throughout the film. And that is something that I think you do want when having someone to direct an Avengers level movie, is someone who can juggle quite a few characters and at least make every character seem to have some sort of development or have some sort of significant role in a film, where there's enough attention paid to each character that they don't just feel like side pieces, like small pieces to the puzzle. Like, they actually do fit in, and there is significant attention paid to them. I know that's why the Russo brothers got that gig. I mean, especially off the back of Captain America Civil War, which is essentially Avengers 2.5. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. And a part of that news was that apparently Marvel has been eyeing lesser known actors to fill in the role as Kang in the midst of Jonathan Majors stepping down from the role or being fired from the role, essentially. So they will be using lesser-known actors and different actors to play different versions of Kang and different council members, which that's perfectly fine. If you've got people that can do a decent job, I don't see why not. It's unfortunate. The situation's unfortunate, and I don't want to dive into that too much, but, you know, at least Marvel seems to be making a plan, which I think is a good thing. Alright, so let's just jump into the movie of the week. The movie that I'll be reviewing today is Bad Boys Ride or Die, starring Willibard Paper Smith, you know, because paper beats rock, and Martin Lawrence, directed by, I'm going to butcher this, Adil Al-Arabi and Bilal Fallah. I think that's how you say it. I looked a little bit into what they had worked on before, and I see that they have directed 2 episodes of Miss Marvel before, just for some reference to some of their other work. The movie had a budget of $100 million and apparently is doing quite well at the box office, interestingly enough. And is sitting currently at, I think, $105 million worldwide. So it's already broken even. But then obviously you need to take into consideration the marketing, which usually almost doubles the budget. So they need to hit round about 200 million to break even, and then you start making a profit. So not a bad start for the movie. It also stars, surprisingly, Marvel's own, or Fox's own, Mr. Fantastic himself, Ian Griffith. I believe that's how you say his name. I just know him as Reed Richards. He's my Reed Richards, at least. I know the internet was clamoring for John Krasinski, and now Pedro Pascal, apparently, but that's my Reed Richards. And also Vanessa Hudgens. And one piece of casting that I thought was quite interesting, that for the sake of it not being a spoiler, I don't think it's a spoiler, it's just a casting change. Everybody knows what the cast is prior. But they swapped out the original actress for Martin Lawrence's wife, Teresa, I think her name was Teresa Randall, and the character's name's also Teresa, for a new actress, and that threw me off. I was so used to the kind of chemistry and relationship between Martin Lawrence and the previous actress playing his wife that threw me completely. And I think the reason I wanted to review this movie this week is because I've got a lot of nostalgia for Bad Boys 1 and Bad Boys 2. I know a lot of people like to shit on those movies, Michael Bay directed movies, and they're very Michael Bay movies, but in all honesty, like, I'm one of those, you know, Bad Boys 1 and 2 diehards. I'm not gonna lie. For a long time, I considered Bad Boys 2 one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, I was a kid, and it is something like a 13-year-old would consider one of his favorite movies. It's action, they're silly, it's a buddy cop movie, because we all know 13-year-olds and 45-year-old and older dads have the same taste in movies, which is buddy cop movies. But yeah, it was quite fun. It was, you know, like, I enjoyed Bad Boys 1 and 2, and I'll stick to that. We don't speak about Bad Boys 3, really. I thought that was about But anyway, today the focus is Bad Boys 4, which it's so, like, I know a lot of people have spoken about this already, but Bad Boys 3 was called Bad Boys for Life, and this one is called Bad Boys Ride or Die. That seems like the biggest missed opportunity ever, because the whole premise behind Bad Boys and the name is the song and the tagline Bad Boys for Life, and then you don't have a movie where the title is Bad Boys 4, as in the fourth one, Life. That baffles me. That what a marketing miss. Well, ironically, I'm sure after they noticed that it was like a slap in the face. Enter badumts. Yeah. Anyway, so, okay, I don't want to spend too much time on that. Let's just move on. So, just a quick summary. Now, generally, in my previous episodes, I think I spent a lot of time trying to really summarize the film. I just want to get to the main points. So, I'm just going to, like, hit the plot summary just as easily as possible. Okay, so we've got our 2 main characters, Marcus and Michael Lowry. So, respectively, Martin Lawrence and Willibard Slaprock Smith. And essentially the plot of the movie is the 2 of them discover that their previous boss, the captain, I believe it was Captain Howard, who was killed in the previous movie by William Smith's son, which that was obviously a big reveal in the previous movie, in the third one. Basically, they find out that there is some extra reason behind his death, and now he's being framed after his death, or in death, he is being potentially framed for helping out the cartel for years and moving money and information across to the cartel over the years. And he was essentially, he's being accused in death as being a rat in the Miami PD, and they want to clear his name, but in doing so, as all of these movies go, they don't follow orders. They go off the book like a ragtag buddy cop movie team would do, and they try and clear his name, and in doing so, they are then fugitives for once. So now they're fugitives, and they're on the run, and they need to clear his name. That's the plot of the movie in a nutshell. Buddy cop movie, two friends, one playboy type, one family type. There is a conspiracy against the captain's name, and now they want to clear it. And then they become fugitives. Oh no, they are not following the orders of their new captain, or they're not following the books. Who would have thunk? Anyway, alright, so I'm going to do this in like a spoiler-free review first, and then I'll get into spoilers. And again, I'm just going to touch on the points that I thought stood out. Anyway, so the first thing I want to touch on, I think, is just something that stood out to me immediately when this movie started that just took me out of it completely, was the camera work. The camera work in this movie is... It's like if someone made a parody of a Michael Bay film, this would be what it was. There were so many uncomfortable close-up shots which just make no sense to me, where the camera is like so tight on Will Smith's face or on Martin Lawrence's face or any person's face that you can see the makeup on their face, and it's so uncomfortable. Like, I felt like I watched this in IMAX, 2D IMAX. It's a massive screen, and you're so in their personal space between any dialogue. Like, I felt claustrophobic watching a movie, and this is a blockbuster. Why am I feeling claustrophobic in a blockbuster? It was so... it was just uncomfortable. Like, I felt uncomfortable the whole time. Like, I couldn't... It took me out of the movie so many times because it took away some of the emotional weight of certain scenes. It took away the general dialogue. You couldn't focus on what they were speaking about because you were so in their face, and it's like you never had a chance to breathe. And then on top of that, there was an extensive use of drone shots throughout the movie, and I don't want to spoil anything too much. I'll just focus on the camera work. I think drones and what they allow filmmakers to do are great. You don't need a helicopter to get establishing shots anymore. You can do car chase scenes in a safer way or a cheaper way where you've got a drone to follow along to get you certain footage. But one thing that does do, which, bear with me on this, I do think it does remove a little bit of a sense of reality from a movie. It makes it feel less grounded, because when you've got foot cameras or cameras that are placed in certain areas, or a shaky cam because someone's running or because someone's following the action or driving next to it, it feels like you're watching this from a real place. Because if there's a vehicle driving behind another vehicle in a car chase scene or whatever the case may be, right? You are in the eye line of something that feels natural to you because you are watching the other vehicles drive as if you're chasing along with them. Or if you're seeing it from passing and it's like a camera that's set up in the street that's doing like I want to say almost like a head turn as the cars speed by, you feel like someone on the street, right? And I think that's the purpose of those cameras. And if you mount some on a roof somewhere or a rooftop or a bridge and you see the cars come by, whatever the case may be, it feels like this would be a perspective that a civilian from that area would have had. But with the drone, it's so fast-paced and so quick. It almost feels like those digital camera pan shots, which just, you feel less grounded, and it doesn't feel like a perspective you would ever get on such a shot. And I understand that that's kind of the purpose of it. It opens up creativity, but it just felt a bit too much. And a lot of the camera work was so fast and all over the place that you couldn't really follow along with the action. And it's kind of like the Bourne effect, the Bourne trilogy effect, where famously they didn't have the rights to go or access to go shoot a fight scene in a certain office space, so they took an iPhone in and they shot it with that, and they had to make it shaky cam, and had to use a lot of cuts in between the fight to make it look better, and then that became like a style choice. And this is kind of what it feels like it's trying to do. Like, I need to give the film credit for trying to do something new. There were some drone camera shots in between action shots where they literally zipped through action sequences and then got shots that you'd never see, and it was like a one-take shot, which is quite cool. At least it seemed like a oneer, where you've got a bunch of action happening around the set, and the drone flies through the set and shows you different aspects of that same action sequence, which is quite cool. And then it like goes into what seems to be like a camera trick or a CGI trick, where you suddenly zoom into a different perspective that you wouldn't have. That's all good and well, but like once or twice in a film to kind of show off their technology would be good, but using that constantly throughout the film just felt like too much to me. Like, there was so much of the action that where also there was no like what. Does nobody in this crew know what a wide angle lens is? Because I always just felt too tight. It felt too tight, and you couldn't see what's going on. It was a bit too much, and if I'm being honest with you, the entire film felt a bit like a parody of itself as well. Because a lot of the jokes and a lot of the humor and the bits felt like they were trying to retread or recapture the magic of old. And I know you kind of want to reference back old jokes and reference back old scenes, but it felt so strange. It felt very strange, and it felt very out of place, and it felt like the movie was overcompensating for something, and I don't know what that is for. Maybe the fact that Will Smith is trying to reinvigorate his career, I don't know. But it felt like a parody of itself. It just didn't seem like it had this enough self-awareness to kind of capture the old essence of it, but instead just forcing yourself to be something that you no longer are, and it didn't work for me that well. The humor was kind of shoddy. It was great here and there, and the action was also okay. There was some cool action sequences, but nothing wow or amazing. I think just there was a lot of it that was a little bit predictable, and I'll touch on that in spoilers, but yeah, I think it's just those close-up camera shots, man. Like, I shouldn't be that close up in Will Smith's face, I just feel like I'm in arm's reach of his, and I know that's not safe, so it just made me very uncomfortable. It was just very strange. It was a very strange style choice. There was obviously your typical Michael Bay establishing shots and Michael Bay camera shots where, when Will Smith and Martin Lawrence stand up, there's that rotating or that camera shot where the camera's going around them as they stand up. But that doesn't look as impressive if the camera's zooming past and around everyone constantly. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to feel like I'm sitting on one of the actor's lap or I felt like at some points it feels like I am the actor's partner in a swimming pool, and I've got my legs wrapped around them, my arms wrapped around them, and I'm staring them in the eyes. That's how close you felt. It felt intimate. I don't want to feel intimate with every character on screen. It's like, I don't. It's too much. I want my personal space. It felt invasive. I don't know how to explain it. It's just super uncomfortable. It's way too tight of a shot. It makes it feel like maybe they shot all of this sitting down and they just took the camera to the people's eye level so you at least feel like you're there. But anyway, like I said, the action was pretty good. If you're expecting some cool gunfights, there was some cool gunfights, a lot of stabbing, a lot of blood, a lot of violence. It was cool. And I'll elaborate on some of the action sequences in the spoiler part of this review. But I will say, action-wise, I can't complain too much, but again, the camera work took a lot away from the action sequences. Then the pacing and the story, there was some weird stuff. I think something that I can touch on is that early in the film, I don't think this is spoiler heavy, is that Martin Lawrence's character does suffer from like cardiac arrest, and he has this like little dream sequence where it's like his life flashes in front of his eyes. But that sequence was so strange and so weird. What happened to just a good old classic buddy cop movie? Like, why did they let go of just a standard buddy cop movie? Have it just, I think if you want to recapture something that was filmed in the 90s and the early 2000s. I think Bad Boys 2 was like 2003. Because I think they reference it in the movie, and it was around about 2003. If you're trying to recapture the magic of something back then, why not try and imitate that style? Because I think that's something that we're missing now. Everything has to be so fast-paced. There isn't time for a shot to breathe. Everything is so on top of each other. And the weird, you know what the camera's work's problem is? The problem with the camera work is there is a sequence where they basically come back from the hospital, and without context, but come back from the hospital and they go into Martin Lawrence's house where his wife and his kid, or his wife and his daughter, and Reggie is there again. Reggie is there, and also Will Smith's partner is there. And they walk into the kitchen, and this is a scene where the characters are just greeting each other, and the camera is moving like it's the start of an action sequence. Because it has this establishing shot where it circles around the people and it's cutting in between, and it really feels like, are they going to start fighting right now? Like, why is all your camera shots the same? Where is it going to be where it just breathes? Just take a moment and calm the fuck down. Why do they have everyone on rigs? Or are they swinging? Maybe the directors got drones recently for Christmas, and that's how they just decided to film this. I paid for this, or I got this, and I'm going to use this, and we're just going to use drones for everything, and everything's going to be these like, why? It's like when someone discovers a new way to film something or to do something, and they keep reusing that same technique. It's just like, we get it, man. It's too much. It's too much. I could rant about the camera work. Like, there was this one scene where someone was typing, and the camera swooped across their fingers typing. It was like this weird digital, because I don't know if it was CGI, but it was so uptight on their fingers as they were typing. It was so uncomfortable. It was so off-putting. It was that generic blonde white guy, man, that was part of their team at the end of the previous movie. He was typing something when he was hacking again, because, he's breaking the stereotype because he's a generic blonde white guy, Hitler's wet dream, that's this jock, but he can hack or whatever the fuck. Who gives a shit? He's typing and it zooms in on his fingers, and it's so unnecessary, and it felt like a student film where students were figuring out new shots and they just wanted to show everyone that they can do these cool shots, and it wasn't for me. I did not like it. It was too much. It was too much. Just make it in the style of like a Bad Boys 2. Make it feel like that. You know what? They should have just got Michael Bay to direct it. If you're going to try and imitate, why not just get Michael Bay to direct it? They got him to cameo in the previous one. Why not just get him to direct it? I'd rather watch Michael Bay. Fault him as you may. But Michael Bay can shoot an action sequence. And I think it would have been good to allow him to do this again. Because that would have been the perfect send-off for this movie. Get the original director back and make something that just feels a bit more grounded and not so hyper-realistic. It's a buddy cop movie. I think it's almost like when Fast and Furious first started to expand into this weird hyper-realistic universe where it starts off so grounded and then it loses its touch. And Fast and the Furious successfully capitalized on their franchise becoming hyper-realistic because they became self-aware. But that's the beauty of it. They became self-aware and they executed it good. At least from what I can remember. I mean, I stopped watching after Fast and Furious 7, but it felt like they were self-aware enough to capitalize on the right aspects. Whereas with this, this was a student film. This was just a student film. Just get Michael Bay to direct. Just do it. I mean, you had the product placement. I love Skittles. Skittles are my favorite candy. They product placed Skittles. They product placed, Doritos, because every Doritos pack that was open was perfectly opened and not crunkly or crinkled up at all. It was just always like perfectly solid. The product placement was so stupid. So just get Michael Bay then. He could do it probably better, the product placement. I don't know. But there was just shots. There was a shot where there was like guns firing and it was like a shooting scene, like an open fire scene. Open fire scene? What do you call it? Just a gunfight. And the person shot a bowl of candy above Martin Lawrence's head, and the movie just took this weird slow-mo playing like sexy music where the candy is raining on top of him and it's just slow motion falling into his mouth. it felt so out of place because those camera tricks don't feel like anything if the rest of your movie is a bunch of camera tricks. It's like having pizza every day. If you have pizza every day, you're not going to enjoy having pizza anymore because there's pizza every fucking day. So then giving me a different type of pizza is not going to make me feel better because it's still fucking pizza. I don't understand why they did this. But anyway, moving on. The pacing and the story, I think the story is quite straightforward. The pacing, it was a brief movie. It didn't feel like it hung too long, so I'd say that is a positive. I do think, the audience in the cinema seemed to enjoy a lot of the humor, and I can't fault them for that. But I do think it does fall shy humor-wise compared to the rest. So, yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say about that. It's an action movie. What do you want from it? There's not much more. I'm looking at my notes quickly. What does this say? Why the name? The Bad Boys for Life. Yeah, that's also. See that the fact that they misnamed or mistitled the third one to Bad Boys for Life and this one Bad Boys Ride or Die is exactly what I think this movie represents, or what I think it represents. It's this movie not being prepared enough for itself and not being aware of what it is. Like, know yourself, know what you are as a property. You're Bad Boys for Life. That is like the tagline for Bad Boys 1 and 2. And Ride and Die, ride together, die together, whatever it was. Why would you not plan, when you made the third one, we're going to keep this name for the fourth one? Just potentially. Who gives a crap if you can't use it? If you don't make enough money for a fourth one, at least you got that in the back pocket. Don't be stupid. Whatever. It felt like they were phoning it in. For a quick cash grab. And I think Will Smith pushed for this movie because there's a lot of good nostalgia tied to that franchise. And he wanted to return to something. I don't even know if this is the first movie he did since the whole, slap incident at the Oscars with Chris Rock. But it felt like he took a safe option that people would have a good memory of and a character that they like. And he wanted to present it in a way that would do him well from a PR perspective. And funny enough, his character in this movie is a lot more wholesome and, a lot more together than in the past. And he's not that playboy type. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on the spoiler-free review. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I'll give my rating at the end of the spoiler review. But yeah, that's kind of like my thoughts on the movie from a spoiler-free perspective. Alright, now we're going to get straight into the spoilers. So from a spoiler perspective, okay. The first thing that I'm upset about from a spoiler perspective. Now, I need to reiterate, I love Bad Boys 1 and 2. I've got it on DVD. Like, I went out of my way to purchase it on DVD when I was a teenager. Granted, I haven't rewatched those movies since I was a teenager, so it might not hold up. Some of the jokes might be outdated, but whatever. I enjoyed it. I remember enjoying it a lot. I'm telling you, if I was a teenager, I would not have enjoyed this movie that much. And the reason is, like, there's things that just don't make sense to me. You're redoing a franchise or trying to reinvigorate a franchise that you had, 20 years ago. You got Bad Boys for Life, the third one. Bad Boys for Life, Bad Boys 3. You had in 2020, post-lockdown or during COVID, whatever it was. And it wasn't bad. The thing that I remember from the movie is Will Smith had a son, and his ex was crazy, and there was apparently a few laughs. I can't remember much of that movie. I just remember it not having a big impact on me. It was just a movie. But you're trying to capitalize on a franchise where you want to jog people's memory on things that they're nostalgic about and have a fond memory of and a fond feeling towards. So why the fuck are you killing off characters, beloved characters, that had left a good taste in people's mouth back in the previous movies? They had a character called Fletcher, right? Tall motherfucker. And also, they say motherfucker every 2 seconds in this movie. Again, the movie felt like a parody of itself. But anyway, tall motherfucker named Fletcher. He was the guy that they had imprisoned, and they went to go talk to him in the first movie because they needed him to find some files for him or information on someone. I can't remember the details. But I remember he was still in his jumpsuit, or in his prison suit with handcuffs on, and he quickly checked on computers and hacked into the system or whatever to get information for him. And it was a funny character. Because remember the character getting up and being annoyed at Martin Lawrence, and Martin Lawrence still said, "I'll knock you the fuck out, sit your ass down." It was a super tall guy, and they had this funny camera angle where you see the guy looking down at Martin Lawrence, and just to give an idea of how tall this guy is. And then when Martin Lawrence looked up at the guy, you saw a bottom down, like a bottom up angle. And it was this funny bit, and that character returned in the second one. He got a job at the police station or at Miami PD, and he was now in the tech department, and he helped them with a case, because he helped them with shredded paper to get that all together. And it was like, that's a wholesome, that's character growth. And in this movie, he's back. The captain, by the way, who they were trying to frame for being in touch with the cartel. Love the captain, love the actor that plays the captain. I hate that they killed him in the previous movie. How fucking stupid is that? Why would you let go of a character that people love so much? Like, you don't have to kill the... Why did you kill off the captain? Why? Stupid choice. This franchise is filmed with stupid decisions that will make people less inclined to return. Because now Fletcher returns in the fourth one. The Cap gave Fletcher some information that would help the boys out with their case. He is now an artist, and he had left them a message in the art that he was displaying in his art gallery, which was a QR code. Ugh, gross. Of course, it's a fucking QR code. Oh man, it really felt like a dad trying to write a movie to feel hip with the kids, which I suppose is the phase in which Will Smith is now in his life. And, you know, like when he started the YouTube channel thing, and man, I don't get it. But anyway, whatever, it's a QR code in the slideshow of his art, which anyone could find, by the way, and access. What a stupid idea. Anyway, so Fletcher's trying to help them and give them information, and then the people that are hunting Martin Lawrence and Will Smith's character down just shoots him in the fucking head. He's dead. And there's no send-off to the character. This is a character that I remember fondly. Like, those interactions were great. I thought it was a funny interaction. Why'd you kill him? Why are you killing your own franchise? Why are you shooting yourself in the foot? Why are you doing this? I don't... Do the people that make this franchise... Do they want to kill the franchise? Is that the point? Is this a weird... Will Smith is like... He hates himself, so he's punishing himself by shaming himself? I don't... What is happening? Why would you kill the character like that? That was a character I remember fondly, and he had a good turn, and now you just kill him? Like, it's like the people that wrote this movie didn't understand their own property. I don't... You know what? It gives... And I hate to draw the comparison, because it's such a big comparison, but, you know, like in Star Wars, the fucking second one of the third threequel... What? I can't even remember the fucking... You know, the one where where Luke receives the lightsaber from Rey at the end of the episode 7, and the start of episode 8, he just throws the lightsaber over his shoulder, right? And in the first one, it seemed like he was happy to see the lightsaber, and like it took him back. It was this emotional moment. In the second one, he just throws it over his shoulder off a cliff. Like, that felt to me like someone that didn't understand the character. And this entire movie felt like they did not understand their own franchise and their own characters. It made no sense. No consistency. So that fucking annoyed the crap out of me. And how do you kill a character like that off with no send-off? It's so stupid. And they tried to retread some waters with some old jokes and capture that magic where Martin Lawrence, like in... I think episode 2 in Bad Boys 2, he obviously took that ecstasy at the morgue, which made him high, and there was a very funny scene with him being high at the morgue and then high when they were talking to the captain when Captain Howard came to their house. But in this one, he died, and then he came back to life after a cardiac arrest, and now he thought that he can't die because the Cap told him so in his vision that he had. So he was kind of like a high person throughout the movie, and Martin Lawrence does that really well. But again, it felt so offbeat and felt so odd. I just don't know. It just felt flat to me. It just felt really flat. And the humor was good. There was some good shit. I mean, something that was really funny to me is the fact that at one point, Will Smith's character basically throughout this movie seems to have a problem with panic attacks after the pressure of feeling like a bad person because, you know, he killed his ex-girlfriend who he had an illegitimate son with that ended up causing the death of his Captain Howard, because he got shot by his son and Will Smith feels guilty. So now he got panic attacks every time they were out in the field, which makes some sense and that gives the character something interesting, I suppose. But a very funny part is at the end of the film, in like the last action sequence, Will Smith has this moment where he's having this panic attack and they're having like a gunfight, and then he has this vision and he sees Captain Howard, and Captain Howard tells him it's okay, it's not your fault. And then Martin Lawrence proceeds to slap the shit out of Will Smith's character, like repeatedly, like 4 or 5 times. He just slaps the shit out of him. And I don't know if that was like an internal joke of having Will Smith be slapped on camera after he slapped Chris Rock. If it was, that would be pretty funny. But he just slaps the shit out of him. And then the only other real funny joke is from a character that they fucking killed off, which is Captain Howard. So they find like videos that he left behind as a trail for them to drop them clues. I don't know why he just didn't tell them everything in the first video. The fuck, as like a test. It doesn't make any sense. Who gives a crap? It's a shitty storyline, I'm going to be honest with you. He starts one of the videos that they open on the computer in front of Vanessa Hudgens and generic white guy and Will Smith and Martin Lawrence while they're opening up that file on the computer. It literally just starts with Captain Howard just being like, alright, you fucks. And then he just starts talking. And just the way that he delivered that line, like I audibly laughed in the cinema. And I think I was the only one just because it was so out of place. And he just does that tired, cranky, you know, captain really well. But that was like the funniest part of the film, if I'm being very honest with you. The other only cool part, I suppose, was Reggie's redemption. Obviously, great scene in the second one is them, you know, seeing Reggie at the door and doing the chitty chitty bang bang thing where he's, you know, Will Smith is pretending to be the drunk uncle that's ex-convict and they try and scare him, and Will Smith has that great line, have you ever made love with a man before? Would you want to? And they're basically, you know, trying to intimidate him, and everyone really loved that Reggie scene in the second movie. And Reggie has a standout moment in this movie because he's now a Marine, and he has the scene where he like kills 15 people that invade the house, and he does it really badass like. And you know, Martin Lawrence even makes a reference with chitty chitty bang bang, and you know, they're watching him do this, and this was pretty cool shit because Martin Lawrence thought that he was a deadbeat. So that was pretty cool. And the film ends in a weird way with Reggie. They try and intimidate Reggie in a similar fashion, but now they obviously know what he can do, so they just kind of give way to him when he wants to cook on the grill. So they go make the potato salad and prep the plates and the table, which is pretty funny. But the final shot of the movie is Reggie smiling into camera and just nodding his head. And it's like the movie wants to tell you that it is self-aware, but at the same time it's not. It just feels like a self-parody, but not in a good way. And I think that's where the movie, it tried too hard to be casually self-aware. And it almost feels like, which is something I'm going to talk about later, but you know, like, it's like with Drake after the Drake and Kendrick beef, now Drake is trying to act all cool and casual about it, like it didn't affect him that much, ha ha ha. And that's kind of like what this movie feels like. The movie kind of wants to pretend like, oh, we do get what, you know, you guys loved about the movie, ha ha ha. I mean, they even had like a cameo from Michael Bay where he was speeding, and I think it was a Porsche that was the same model as one of the Porsches that Mike Lowry drove in one of the previous Bad Boys films, which is a nice little cameo or whatever, but just get him to fucking direct. Just get him to direct. Oh, speaking of cameos, and in that same sequence, Khaby Lame just walks past camera and does the shoulder shrug. I mean, good for him. Eat, man, eat. Make your money. But who is that for? Like, it just felt so out of touch. This movie it felt super out of touch. It felt super out of touch. There was some cool clutch camera shots where it felt like a video game because they had like first person shooter angles and so. And like I said, the drone angles where it was flying through fight sequences, which was really cool, but it's just too much, man. It felt, again, this is something similar that I said about Kung Fu Panda 4, where they make a joke every 2 seconds, even if it's the cheapest, like the lowest hanging fruit, which is like a fart joke, to keep a child's attention. This movie felt like it was trying to keep a middle-aged dad's attention who also now has discovered TikTok, you know? Because they need to keep your eyes glued to the screen, so everything moves quickly. It was like keys being dangled in front of the baby the whole time. It was just too much, man. And DJ Khaled made a return in the film as his character Manny, and then he just gets absolutely killed, which is quite funny. He just gets driven into another car, and then he gets sets aflame with like a Molotov cocktail or something. It was great. That was kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie. And then Tiffany Haddish right before that made a little cameo as like someone that they tried to get, like an informant, or someone that they tried to get, not information, sorry. She was like she sounded like the pimp for strippers at a strip club, essentially. Not a pimp, but you know what I mean. Their manager. And they wanted to get some guns and phones and stuff from her in a car. And it was okay. Her scene was fine. And then Joyner Lucas shows up as one of the bounty hunters. Or one of the gang members, sorry, that was trying to collect the bounty of bringing in the bad boys. Which, okay, first, let's just break down the fact that Joyner Lucas is probably the least hard rapper that you're bringing in to play that type of role. Like, nobody's threatened by Joyner. Like, what's he gonna do? He's just gonna rhyme really fast, you know? Like, I love Joyner Lucas. Like, I don't have any hate towards him. But he's not that guy, you know? He's not that guy. He does look the part a bit, but he's not that guy. But anyway, that's whatever, Joyner. The two least intimidating rappers, DJ Khaled and Joyner Lucas. Next, they're gonna get Jack Harlow being one of the gangbangers that's coming to come sort shit out or whatever. Or Logic. It's just so, man, whatever. It felt like a role that was intended for the game, and then they ended up with Joyner Lucas. Anyway, what was I saying? I was trying to talk about this random cameo with Joyner, and then, when they're trying to find these guys, why is everyone referring to them as the bad boys? That's supposed to be an internal joke between the two of them. Why are people referring to them as we got the bad boys? We have the bad boys. Is this the thing? And then the people sing the song too? Like, the people that's trying to hunt them down are also referencing the song and calling Martin Lawrence and Will Smith the bad boys? Does that mean that on, Miami PD's website they're referred to as the bad boys? Did I miss something? Why are they being referred to as the bad boys by everyone? Has everyone seen the first 3 movies? Is that why? You see what I mean by the self-awareness getting to the point of self-parody, but not in a good way? It's so fucking weird. The stupid plot, right, it's so predictable, because Ian Griffith, or Mr. Fantastic, ends up being the bad guy. He plays someone that's running for mayor, and he's now dating Will Smith's ex from the previous movie or whatever, that's now their captain, and he was leaking the information to some sort of he's not a Marine, he was some sort of something, ex-military guy. I don't even know that actor. Intimidating actor, but it was such a the twist was so predictable, him being the informant, and then there was a very uncomfortable scene where he fights the captain, his now girlfriend, that in an elevator where he beats her up, which is slightly uncomfortable. She does get her comeuppance, but he does get his comeuppance. He gets eaten by an albino alligator. I'm not going to elaborate on that. Named Duke, which was so strange. What a strange film. I don't know what it was supposed to be. It was just weird. It felt a bit, it felt a bit like this movie was actually a video game storyline that they just incorporated into a movie. That's what it felt like. Because it felt like levels and missions, side missions and stuff. And maybe people like that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that like that. It just wasn't for me. I mean, it is quite funny at the point where Ian Griffith's character is falling into the the water where the albino alligator is. It just felt ironic to me because all he needed was to just stretch his arms and then he could have saved himself. But anyway, And then after he beat his girlfriend and she find out that he is the leak, or the mole, or the person that's been leaking all this information, like, I understand that she will no longer respect this person because he just beat her up or whatever, but she, like, let goes of him too easy, and she's willing to kill him way too fucking quick. That's psychotic. Like, you'd be heartbroken. Like, sure, you'd no longer respect this person, and in the moment, you'd probably want to beat the shit out of them, but you'd be devastated, right? Like, apart from the action sequences not feeling grounded because of the camera work, the people also didn't feel grounded, because that's not a realistic reaction to it. Like, sure, he's an asshole, but you're not going to want to kill him immediately. Like, she asked him whether he really loved her, but I don't think she really loved him, because she's just immediately willing to kill him on the drop of a dime. I don't know, it's just weird. But again, I understand he did beat her up, so it does make sense. But you get what I'm saying. It was just like such a weird... It felt like a nothing moment. Ugh. I don't even know what else to touch on. I don't know what else there is to say about this movie. I mean, I don't, like, it's a very straight-laced movie, but it's not straight-laced enough. Like, it's not simple enough. They try to be something that it's not, and it's trying to be self-referential, but to failure. You know, it's not self-referential in a good way, and a lot of the scenes feel forced, like Martin Lawrence doing a dance in the beginning of the movie at Will Smith's wedding, and the speech that he gives where he's super emotional. One thing that I will say, and I don't want to end this on a damper, but Martin Lawrence throughout the film seemed like he was struggling a bit, like speech-wise and just moving-wise. I think maybe that's why they had a lot of close-ups. I hope he's okay, because I recently saw a clip surface where they were like on like a tour bus or something, or some sort of vehicle, and they were greeting fans, and Will Smith was helping Martin Lawrence walk. So I hope that's not the case, which, you know, that would kind of suck if that was the case, because I do love Martin Lawrence. But anyways, I just also want to say, like, I don't even hate Will Smith. I actually think Will Smith gets a lot of undeserved hate, and, you know, it is what it is. He slapped a guy for making a joke about, you know, Tupac. I mean, his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. It was just... Man, I had a lot of good memories of Bad Boys 1 and 2, but this doesn't feel like the same characters in the same universe. So I think rating-wise, I'm trying to think what I would give it a rating. What would I rate this? I've got to be real, and I've got to be fair, and I've got to be honest. Thing is, like, realistically, I don't see... It's like, my honest opinion would be is, like, if you're going to watch it in cinema, you'd probably try it in cinema without wanting to slap yourself in the face. I don't know. It's just, I honestly give it a try when it goes to streaming inevitably, and you want something stupid to put on in the background and put your surround sound on as much as you can. But also, if you watch it at least at home, you're within the safety of your home, and, you know, out of Will Smith's arm's reach, so he can't slap you for not liking it. Because, man, this movie, you know what? This movie slapped the good taste of Bad Boys out of my mouth. That's where I am. Because it just, no. Don't give it a try in cinema. Don't give it a try in cinema. I'd say rather give Bad Boys 1 and 2 a try instead of this. Try and watch Bad Boys 1 and 2 again. That's my review. That's my honest review. Anyway, on to the next segment of the show, which I don't want to spend too much time. We're already an hour in, or at least on my side. I just want to go on some side Stan-gents for the week. I think the first thing that I want to touch on, just to keep in line with what the movie was that I just reviewed, starring Will Smith. Will Smith was on Hot Ones recently. I watched his episode on Hot Ones, and just to touch back on that thing, I know Will Smith is ironically like Chris Rock trying to save face, and you know, he's got his PR team working overtime to do like a good press run so that he receives good press. And, you know, there was some good answers that he gave on Hot Ones, but it felt so weird because Hot Ones is now so successful that it's getting people like Will Smith on there, where obviously PR teams are telling Sean Evans what he can and cannot ask Will Smith, because why is the slap not being addressed? At least why is Will Smith not making a joke about it or something? But the questions in this interview also felt a lot more tame compared to a lot of Sean's usual questions where people would compliment him because of the depth of the questions. Same with his Chris Hemsworth's Hot Ones episode that he had recently, where it felt a bit muted, a bit, what's the word, restricted. So, I did give that a watch. I'd say give it a watch and just kind of see what your feeling is of it. I will say I did enjoy the fact that Will Smith, he literally couldn't keep his eyes open at one point, so it was a bit of a vulnerable interview for him, I think, and he still got that charm to it, and, by all accounts, what I've heard of him over the years, he doesn't sound like a bad guy. It's just unfortunate that he's been in a bad situation, relationship-wise, because it's in the public eye, and there's a lot of stuff that he needs to deal with, and he seems like a guy that went through a lot, and I'm actually someone that backs him. I back Will. I hope he makes amends with Chris Rock. I hope he makes amends with himself, and I hope he gets through all this stuff, and he can find some success with it soon. And yeah, I thought it was an interesting episode. Tell me what you guys think, but if you watch that episode of Hot Ones, you'll see what I mean, that it's a bit of a muted or a bit of a restricted episode of Hot Ones. It felt a lot more tame. And then also revisited Shrek 1 through 4 recently, so that is something that I watched recently, especially Shrek 2 to 4. Shrek 2 remains, in my opinion, one of the best sequels to ever make it to light. It's such a good movie. It holds up even now, and the last time I watched that, I was a kid, because we had a pirated copy of the DVD. And I had the PlayStation 2 game from Shrek 2. And I had a lot of fond memories of that. And I was a bit scared rewatching it because, the animation doesn't hold up as well in person or in real life as it does in your imagination or your memories as a kid. But it was still good. It's so good. Fairy Godmother is such a great character. Prince Charming is such a great character to introduce. Man, it holds up. Shrek 3 and 4, I'd say Shrek 4, not my cup of tea. I thought it was rather the weakest of the entire, quadrilogy. And I know they're talking about a Shrek 5 releasing soon. I'd be interested to see what they do, but man, Eddie Murphy kills it. Eddie Murphy and Antonio Banderas in those movies just kill it. I'd even say Shrek 3 or Shrek the Third was pretty good too. It was pretty decent. Although, Justin Timberlake is Justin Timberlake in it, I suppose. That's probably the weakest part in it. But it's not a bad movie. The Shrek the Third felt still quite on brand, but Shrek 4 or Shrek Forever after, you see movies actually knowing how to use the titling and the number of the movie in the sequence in the title. Gosh, damn. Anyway, then something else that I wanted to just go on a side tangent about is the Drake and Kendrick beef. Now, I don't think I went in on it in any of my previous podcast episodes, but just something interesting about that, some interesting development about that beef was that Drake seemingly deleted the Hot Part 6, the final response he had to Kendrick's Meet the Grahams and Not Like Us. He deleted that from most of his platforms, it seems, like Instagram and all that, which, that's a bit of a submissive, not a bit of a bitch move, don't you think? I mean, a lot of people are trying to defend Drake, but that's a bit weak, man. That's a bit weak. No offense, but it's not looking too good. And then he had that weird feature on, I think, Trippie Redd's song. Or no, not Trippie Redd. What's her name? Whatever. He had a feature where he was rapping over BBL Drizzy to try and save face, but it really didn't work because it seemed like he's trying to act chill, but he's not really chill about it. And then he also had this weird song release that apparently a lot of people thought was an AI version of it, which was Wagwan Delilah, which is a cover of Hey There Delilah, which, if you haven't heard it, go listen to it. But man, Drake is spiraling. Oof. What a strange time it is for him in his life, ain't it? Because, how's that your responses to pedophilia accusations? Anyway, and then the last thing that I just wanted to touch on is also hip-hop related, but Eminem released a song, Houdini, which seems to be, the first single to his last album, which is The Death of Slim Shady. And I think a lot of people seem to like it. And the rhyme schemes are decent. And I mean, it's Eminem. You're going to get pretty good rhyme schemes out of it. And it's going to be an impressive song despite the poor track selection, the beat selection. But I think that suffers the same consequence which I just spoke of in the Bad Boys movie, which is it feels like too much of a parody of itself, even though it's trying to be self-referential. And it just didn't work for me. I don't know why, I don't know. It didn't work for me. Yeah, that's actually something I want to touch on, but it's like people want the old Slim Shady, but he's not anymore, and it's not the old Slim Shady enough. It just felt like a fan-made song trying to imitate Eminem of old. But yeah, and then the other thing I want to talk about is UFC, because apparently, like, Connor versus Chandler is in doubts now, because Connor might be injured because he's trolling everyone by posting an image of him having been at the doctor that seems to be a specialist, regarding certain body parts or whatever, because you could see stuff in the background, and now we don't know if that's happening, and this is off the back of UFC 302, where Dustin Poirier lost against Islam Makhachev via submission, which is a banger of a fight. Man, I'm so glad Dustin got that fight. It's his first shot at a title, but my poor man Dustin literally had to fight, was it Khabib, Charles Oliveira, and Islam Makhachev was his 3 title shots. That's crazy. But Dustin, at the age of 35, still looked really good. Islam Makhachev's striking is really underrated, and Dustin looked really, really good. He defended the takedowns great, the groundwork great. He escaped, like, I think it was early in the fight, he escaped like a DOS attempt, I think, really well. Like, Dustin was he escaped to Komura, sorry. And he was looking really good. So I hope Dustin doesn't retire. I know both Makhachev and Khabib gave him his props and, told him not to retire because he is a killer. But I just don't see that there's anything left for him to do at 155, which is quite sad. Because I think he's the type of guy that you kind of want to have had the title at least for one title defense, or one, just win it. And then retire and drive off into the sunset, ride off into the sunset. No, he made a lot of money off of the Conor McGregor fights and his name and stock value grew, but I just think it would have been a nice cap off to that. But yeah, I'm curious to see whether this Conor x Chandler fight is actually going to happen, 3 years down the line or whatever it's been. I don't know. I think Conor's done for it. It's so funny, I saw him, like, he made a post about his Irish Forge stout that he was mocking Guinness because he went to go take a shit in one of their establishments. Like, that's what Conor's on right now. And he still said that he doesn't know if he's going to do the whole trash talking in this, leading up to this fight, because there's nothing in it for him anymore. And then immediately just goes to call Islam Makhachev a cousin fucker while posting a photo of him on Twitter. Man, that cocaine must be good. Anyway, that's it from me. You can find me as per usual on my social media. So that would be the TriPod podcast on YouTube, Stanimation on YouTube, or Stan on YouTube. And, I try to upload regular animation shorts now there, and hopefully some long form stuff soon to come. I still need to reactivate my TriPod podcast Instagram account, and then I'm also TriPod podcast on Twitter. I need to check those handles properly still, but I'll do that sometime soon. But anyways, have a good week, everybody, and bad boys for life.